Let's talk about something I think a lot of us have felt, but maybe didn't have a name for. It's this feeling of being kind of trapped in our own comfort zone, in our own routines. We're going to call it the comfort cage. Okay, so picture this. It's been a long week, you've got plans tonight, and then your phone buzzes. They're canceled. Now be honest, if your very first feeling is just this wave of pure, sweet relief, well, you are definitely not alone. And it turns out there's a really fascinating reason why that feels so good. So what is actually going on inside our heads in that moment? This isn't just about being an introvert, you know? It's about a powerful reward system in our brain kicking into high gear. It all comes down to a little chemical hit. That's right. That amazing feeling of a suddenly empty calendar, that's your brain getting a little squirt of dopamine. It's a reward for avoiding something it saw as, well, kind of stressful. It's this ancient safety mechanism telling us, hey, stay away from that potential threat. Here's how this whole thing works. It's basically a four-step loop. First, the plan itself causes just a little bit of social anxiety, even if you're not really aware of it. Then you get that glorious text, plans are canceled. Your brain instantly feels relief from that pressure. And finally, boom, dopamine gets released, which sends a really clear message back to your brain. Hey, that felt great. Let's do that again. And that right there is what we call a dopamine loop. It's this powerful cycle that rewards you for avoiding things, and it teaches your brain that staying home feels way safer and honestly better than going out. And just like any other behavior that gets rewarded, your brain wants to do it again and again and again. Now, this feels fantastic in the short term, right? But what happens when that loop keeps repeating over and over? Well, that's when we can accidentally start building the walls of our own comfort cage, and the outside world can start to feel really loud and overwhelming. What's really happening here is kind of wild. Every single time that loop gets reinforced, it strengthens the neural pathways for isolation. Your brain literally, and I mean literally, starts to rewire itself to prefer staying in, not just to rest, but as its go-to default state. This quote just nails the feeling, doesn't it? When you've been tucked away in the quiet of that cage for a while, the regular world can feel like a full-on sensory assault, you know? Just a trip to the grocery store can feel like way too much. The lights are suddenly too bright, the sounds are way too loud. Okay, but this brings up a really, really important question. We have to understand the difference between healthy, necessary solitude and being caught in a cycle of avoidance, because they're not the same thing at all. So think about it like this. Healthy solitude is like plugging in your phone. It's a conscious choice you make to recharge your batteries. You come out of it feeling refreshed and actually ready to connect. The comfort cage, on the other hand, doesn't really feel like a choice. It feels like a need. It's driven by anxiety, and instead of recharging you, it just slowly drains you, making the outside world seem scarier and scarier. So just take a quick second here and ask yourself, is your alone time a battery charger, or is it more like a fortress? And look, there's no judgment here at all. It's just about awareness. The really good news is, if you feel like maybe you have been building a cage, there's a very simple, super low-stakes key that can help open the door. And it's not about forcing yourself to go to some huge party. It's about starting with something much, much smaller. The whole idea is based on something called micro-interactions. The goal is to create these tiny, positive social experiences. These little wins help retrain your brain, and they show it that connection can actually feel good and rewarding, not just threatening. You're basically building a new, healthier dopamine loop. And look how simple these are. When we say micro, we mean really micro. We're not talking about deep, meaningful conversations here. It's literally just making eye contact and smiling at someone, asking the person making your coffee what their name is, giving a quick, genuine compliment. Each one is a tiny little act of connection that costs almost zero social energy. And I really want to stress this part. This is not about throwing yourself into the deep end of the social pool. Not at all. The goal is just to gently, slowly, get your nervous system used to connection again. It's about rebuilding your comfort and your confidence, one tiny little stepping stone at a time. And honestly, this is the most powerful takeaway from all of this. Your brain is changeable. The very same brain that learned to prefer isolation can absolutely learn to enjoy connection again. You have the power to lay down new tracks. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. You don't have to tear down the whole cage at once. Just think about one tiny, super easy thing you can do. What's one little micro interaction you could have today just to crack that door open a little bit?